we didn't really let the kids read the comments for a long time. It was like, they don't need to know that. Now, having gone through something really public, that is something that a lot of people obviously are going to point the finger at, like, oh my gosh, look what happened, and look what he did and what she did and what she decided to do. And I get a lot of hate for continuing to stay with Shay after his choices. I still get that. I get a lot of, that I'm some battered wife, people pleasing, like Mormon that just, has to be with him because of what I believe, or, there's so many comments. Welcome to Empowered Now. I'm your host, Colette Kati. Join me as we talk all things to uplift, encourage, teach, inspire, and empower you to see your best self, to live your best life, and to thrive wherever you are. Welcome. I have a special guest with me. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you really need to go watch it on YouTube because it's extra. YouTube's extra if you're not watching this. Yep. I have my son, Gavin, on the podcast today.
How's it going, guys? We're here in the podcast with my mother, Colette. We have a great time today. Yeah. You guys are doing well.
Yes. And so Gavin is almost 21.
Almost 21.
Maybe 21 by the time this goes out. I'm not sure which week this will go up. Almost 21. So for those of you who have not followed us, Gavin is our oldest son. He just served a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Mexico, Torreon.
Yes.
Right? Did I say that right?
In Torreon, Mexico.
Yes.
I was there for 2 years. So as a missionary, you're kind of set apart from the world. So when you also disclaimer, if I sound really dumb or my English is bad, because I'm still trying to adjust to the English, but and so basically a missionary's job is to preach about the gospel of Jesus Christ to the people of the place where that missionary is called. And we don't get paid for it. It's all service. I chose to serve. And I just got back and I think we're coming up on a month now, which is very weird, but
yeah, it is very weird. So, and I say that it's weird because he was gone for 2 years. We didn't visit him. We didn't, we didn't get to be in his presence for 2 years. We did get to talk to him every week, which was amazing because back when his dad served a mission, he didn't get to call home every week. So we get to do that. But it's been interesting to have him home and to call him Gavin because he has had the title of Elder Butler, the title that is given to him as he's in service to the Lord, basically. Right? Yeah. So I know that there's a lot of our viewers that are watching now that are longtime viewers. So I've debated on, okay, where do I want to go with this episode? Because there's so much that we could talk about. I mean, Gavin has been with us with you guys, if you've watched us from the beginning of our vlogs, since he was about 5 years old. And, we've done our family vlogs. And he has been such a shining light to so many. I think that from my eyes, looking at you, being in the limelight for that long, you have such a calming, protective, grounded presence that I feel like you've always had from when you were young. And there's a lot of different directions that I want to go, and I want to ask you some questions actually about that, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. Let's hear it.
So I think I'm going to start with Gavin early years, and then we'll move into mission talk. And This may be a 2-parter if we go really long, but we'll see how this goes. Okay. So Gavin, I still think it's funny to call you Gavin. Is that weird? I mean, you're my son. I always call you Gavin, but I had the hardest time Elder Butler.
Elder Butler. No, it's definitely a change.
I love it though. It's such an honor. So Gavin, when we started the vlogs, I mean, I think you were 5, if I remember right. I actually showed a clip of one of our vlogs in a previous podcast where he was, if you're watching it on YouTube, of course, Shay was dancing in the front room in my unitard, of course, hence the Shaytard name. And he was running around with him like, Daddy, me hold you. Or you were saying hold you, which was so cute at the time. So I just see this vision of you growing up online. And I know there's a lot of controversy around that. There's a lot of people that, and family vloggers, and I didn't necessarily mean to go in this direction, but I know that it's a hot topic right now. And so many people ask me, and I don't necessarily think that it's important for me to answer those kind of questions because I'm the parent and we decided to vlog. We were the first family vloggers. And so when we started, it was just, this is really fun. Like, we get to do skits with our family. We get to be online and we get to have feedback from other people. And we grew and our channel grew. And it gave us a lot of opportunities, not just in business, but opportunities to share our family and like what we believe and how we live our lives and how we cared for our children publicly. And there's a lot of people that be like, you idiot, why would you do that? But it honestly felt like such an incredible, not just opportunity. It really felt like a calling to me. We talk about callings a lot in our religion because I do feel like there's certain things that we are given of God, and everybody has it. Everybody has gifts, talents, a purpose or purposes that not necessarily like if you don't fulfill your purpose, you're ruining your life type thing. But Heavenly Father or God or whatever you believe in, your higher power, I believe is always on your side and always has your back and gave you certain things for you to be able to thrive in this world and this life. That's my belief. And just to be clear, when I coach, I don't coach from my beliefs. I coach from the belief of the person that I'm coaching, just to be clear, because I know a lot of people, there's a lot of biases that can happen when you have a coach. And I don't like to take my biases into a coaching experience. I want to help empower my client or whoever comes to me to come to their own light, their own realization of their world and what they want to create in their world. So, side note, and we're back. So having had this experience online, I would like to know from you, what are some pros and maybe some cons of your experience growing up online? Okay. Or as a family, as a child of a family vlog family, the first family vlog family. Okay, I have more to say about that, but I'm going to let you talk.
So yeah, I mean, first things first, like I always think, and I always say, like, you can't live life with regrets. So I think, everything we did and where we took vlogging, I think was the right choice. And I think everything happened for a reason. A lot of pros, I think, definitely is that we shared kind of a little bit of what we believe with the world, but not only that, just our family aspect. Because I remember like going back and reading lots of comments, and maybe there's a lot of you guys that maybe don't have a traditional, nuclear family, and don't maybe have that family experience that you would have liked or would have hoped for. And watching our videos kind of helped you or kind of maybe filled a little bit of that empty hole, which I think is really cool that, we could do that and help these people realize that, like Dad always says, happiness really is a choice, and how obviously there's, different circumstances and things that everyone has. But at the end of the day, despite everything that happens, we can always choose what we want, or we can always choose how we react to, maybe not choose what we want, but choose how we react, or, what our behavior is to what happens in life, what comes. And so I think, a lot of pros in that aspect, a lot of opportunities, obviously, like with business and stuff. And we got to meet a lot of really cool people and make a lot of really cool connections that I think would never have happened if we didn't do YouTube, or wouldn't have happened in general if we weren't in this situation that we are in now, which I'm very grateful for. And I think, we definitely have received lots of blessings from that. And honestly, it's been fun, having people kind of recognize you. I remember, like, I used to be so jaded by it, like it was normal. It only happened maybe once or twice on my mission, which kind of surprised me because I kind of forgot that I did all that. And then I remembered and I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Right. You're like, oh, I'm in a totally different role in my life right now. And so to be thrown back to like, oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I did do that.
I did used to do that. And so, yeah. And then, you know, like, I guess we could go to the con side now. It's just kind of, you know, everyone in life, we're not perfect. We all make decisions and we all do dumb, stupid things. And I think maybe a con is maybe some of those decisions or things that we do, having the audience that we have, it can obviously be projected to lots of people, and everyone knows if you messed up or made a bad mistake, and everyone has an opinion on your mistake or your bad decision that you made, and gets lots of backlash and a lot of room for misinterpretation. And it's a little sad in that aspect where people think they know what's really going on when really they don't.
Right.
They never know everything that's going on, and so they think they have the right to put an opinion or tell us what we need to do, which is not really the right thing, because at the end of the day, we're the ones living our lives and we know what's happening. We know the circumstances, but having the audience and kind of having that atmosphere kind of projects that sometimes in a bad light. And so I think really that's only been, you know, the bad con. Obviously, I think we did this for a good reason, and we're not perfect, but we try to be better every day. We try to help people realize that as well. Because, I mean, this life is hard. There's a lot of hard things in life. We all know this.
Right.
And I think we get through life way better and way easier if we're just, you know, all nice to each other, and instead of like pushing people down when they make a mistake, try to lift them up, because we all make mistakes. And so we have no room to push people down or be like, oh, like, why would you do that? It was like, well, you did this thing. And then you start uncovering dirt on the other person, and it's just, you know, everyone gets dirty in the end. So it's better to, you know, just kind of love everyone and try to be accepting. We're not all perfect. We all make mistakes. I make a ton of mistakes, but just little by little. And I think with our channel, with our platform, we've shown that in a unique way that I think not a lot of people have seen before. I mean, obviously now, you know, there's been lots of other vloggers and lots of other families, but it's been a journey, and I think it's still going. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And to go back to what you were saying about the cons, and obviously if you've been following our channel or if you followed the earlier podcast, we did talk about, you know, some of those choices being aired out, and just how it can be so difficult to struggle and then to have your struggle be public. And, you know, we're talking about Gavin's dad and some of the choices that he made and put out there. I think sometimes it's interesting to look at how we really put our lives out there. And when we started it, you know, going back to what we were saying before, when we started it, we were just having fun. It was like, wow, look at what we're doing. Look at what we get to create. Look at what we get to do. And we just loved it. And then the further along it went, like, we still loved it, but there's always going to be those people that have their opinions and their comments and their thoughts about you, even if you're doing great, even if like there's nothing to point the finger out, like, apparently. And there's always going to be judgment coming from people. And I noticed that, you know, pretty early on, that I was like, oh, people think that I look like this, or people think this about me, or, you know, so many opinions about me specifically. And of course, each one of us, and even the kids. And I think sometimes that was, you know, we didn't really let the kids read the comments for a long time. It was like, they don't need to know that. That person on the other side is just spewing hate, which, you know, we've realized over time that often when people are commenting hate or, you know, projecting negativity online, it's because they're suffering. There's some level of suffering. And I've realized that now, having gone through something really public, that is something that a lot of people obviously are going to point the finger at, like, oh my gosh, look what happened, and look what he did and what she did and what she decided to do. And I get a lot of hate for continuing to stay with Shay after his choices. I still get that. I get a lot of, that I'm some battered wife, people pleasing, like Mormon that just, has to be with him because of what I believe, or, there's so many comments. And I can tell you one thing, that from that experience of having been online and being in a positive light and still having those negative comments, I don't want to say I built a thick skin, but it's more of like a really strong sense of empathy. Because you see, like, wow, there's so many people that really actually are going to sit down and type that to me. I wonder what they're experiencing in their life. Like, what is it about them or their life that they feel like, oh, I feel justified in just trashing this person right now, Yeah. So it just has made me feel like I have grown, not a thick skin, but like a backbone, a kind of this solid place of like, I get me, I know me, I don't need you to get me, and I don't need you to know me deeply. It would be nice, but I can still stand on my solid ground and be who I am. And I think having been through that, the negative side of it, I guess, the negative stuff being aired out and like our dirt, I guess, and Shay's dirt, but it's ultimately like reflects on our family. And it's not even just that it was aired online, that it was just, we were going through something. We were going through something that was private, even though we had a public show that was our family. And so many people think, oh, it was a lie, or, granted, we get a lot of positivity from people. We get a lot of people that still are like, you guys were so inspiring to me. And if I am to like, I'm trying to lay this out like
very smoothly.
Yeah. It's like, well, if you look at all of it combined, our family and what we decided to share online, it's life. Like, truly, like, life can be so fun and beautiful, and our connections are meaningful. And we showed that to you guys. And then, you know what? There are some really crappy parts of life too. And people make decisions, and we all have our dirt or our insecurities, are things that we're dealing with that affect other people. And still, we're doing life. We decided to do life out loud online. And that, I think, in itself has given us a lot of empathy.
No, I totally agree with that. And I also think, like, going back to that, life is going to be hard. It's kind of, I think personally, like, it's supposed to be hard so that we can experience things. Because if we go through life not ever passing through trials or not ever going through anything hard, then we're never going to become, what we're supposed to be. We're never going to become the person that we can become. Maybe if you believe in God or Heavenly Father or someone higher, that they want us to become, so that we can be something bigger than ourselves. And I think, like, with our situation, everything that happened, like, you can't just lie on your back and give up. And, like, family is forever. And so you can't just give up on a family because something bad happens or a mistake was made or trials happening, because that's what makes a family, is going through all those hard things and coming out in the end being like, okay, we're still together and we still love each other and we still make mistakes, but we're going to try to push through and try to work together so that we can become better people individually and, as a family. And so in putting our lives out there, we're very vulnerable, and everyone can see and everyone can pick at what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we have to know our worth and know that each one of us is an individual that has infinite potential. And together you can do amazing things. I'm sounding really cheesy, but this is, it's true. And like, you know, like stuff's going to get hard, but like good. There's I don't know if any of you guys know Jocko Willink. He's a Navy SEAL, but he has a quote, and I don't know it exactly, but it's basically like there's this guy that's going on and on complaining, and he's like, good. It's like when life's hard, good, because that means you're going to learn and grow from it if you decide to. But if you don't, life's just going to keep being hard for you. So I'm going to end my soapbox sermon there.
No, I don't. I appreciate it. Yeah. And, I'm really grateful that our family, that we were able to work it out, that your dad and I were able to work it out. And it's not that way for everyone. And that's one thing that, I have noticed in the comments that I am like, okay, well, I want to speak to that because it's important to me that people that are coming to me for coaching or even coming to the podcast for empowerment, and they see that, oh, we went through a really crappy situation. He was unfaithful. He made all these decisions and whatever. And then I stayed. Like there's some like judgment around that. And some people say, well, you're showing this example of somebody that, is just taking it or whatever. And I just want to be clear that empowerment for me means that you are standing in your solid ground. And by solid ground, meaning you come back to yourself. You take care of what you need to. And to be clear, Shay and I wouldn't be together if he didn't take care of the things that he needed to for us to be able to be together. Because when you're a family, and Gavin was talking about this, how, you don't just give up on your family. And I believe that. I don't want to just give up. And when stuff happened, it was really easy to be like, well, yeah, I don't want to be here. This sucks. Like I want a divorce or whatever. But ultimately there was a part of me that didn't want that. And so I wanted to honor that. But what did I need to do in order to create that safety again for myself? And not to say that wasn't in my mind for a long time, like, oh, maybe we won't end up together. But what happened was that I came back to what did I need to do to take care of myself, to take care of the kids, and take it one day at a time. And that involved a lot of things. But I talk about this in my last podcast about trust. Like it takes each member, and specifically, obviously, in a family union, it takes the parents to build that trust first, and then that filters through the children. And so, and go back to that episode if you didn't hear it, because I did talk about like establishing that trust for yourself first. And so to be clear, you're not always going to be in a relationship or a situation where the other person is willing to do their part to change, to make it right, to make amends, to fix what they broke. Not everyone's going to do that. And fortunately for us, he did, right? And, obviously still has his struggles, and I still have my struggles, and we all have our things. That is life. That is just human nature and people being people. But sometimes it's the right choice to leave. And it almost was the right choice for me to leave. I almost did get divorced. And I know we're diving right in.
Yeah, we are. That's okay.
But I like it because I want to be able to, okay, there was a direction I was going. I get really long-winded. I remember Gavin being like, Mom, you're lecturing again. But that's not what I'm trying to do. But where I'm going with this is that it takes everybody doing their part. It takes, the couple, man and wife, doing their part to create that safety for their family unit. But sometimes people think that, if I don't have safety unless this person fixes it, okay? And that's disempowerment. So what I did for myself, and I learned through therapy and like books and all of the things that I dove into at that time, was that I got to create safety for myself, whatever that looked like. And that's why when we did get to the point where, I thought, well, okay, well, if he isn't going to change, then it is time for me to leave. And I know I'm going to be okay because I've established this strong safety, this strong sense of self and groundedness that I know for a fact that I'm going to be okay. But I don't need him to change. I don't need him to fix it. But if we're going to be together and I want to be together, then that's what needs to happen. So that is kind of the difference. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, yeah. And like, I kind of something, I mean, it's along the lines of what we're talking about, but kind of a different direction. Like, I feel like we probably couldn't have done any of this if we weren't focused on our Savior, Jesus Christ. And, you know, this might be controversial, but I was a missionary for 2 years, so this feels very natural for me to talk about. But like, all of these hard struggles and experiences, like the only way I healed from all of that, and how, like you said, I empowered myself, and that strong grounding really comes from grounding yourself, but also believing in someone higher than you that can help you ground yourself.
Right.
And, you know, in our faith, we believe in Jesus Christ, that he is our Savior, that he died and suffered for us, and that because he did that, we can live again and we can be clean again. And so relying on him as our rock is the most important thing we can do. And, you know, maybe if you guys don't have a relationship with Jesus, or you're not very religious, or you maybe not believe in God, maybe, I don't know, I feel like everyone should at least try to look into it. Maybe, you know, talk to someone that's from a faith or from a church. But it's been very helpful for me personally to be able to rely on something higher than me, to be able to see in an outer perspective, in a more eternal perspective, the way things go. Because, I mean, everyone knows my mom is a warrior. She is a bad A. And I know that that's how she got through all that, was because of that. Because she grounded herself in her Savior, and she yoked herself to him, as it says in the scriptures, and walked side by side with him. And obviously, you know, when Jesus died and suffered for us, he had so much pain and sorrow, and he had to, you know, die on the cross. He suffered in the Garden of Gethsemane before as well. Ultimately, he resurrected, but before all of that, he had to go through that. And there's a quote that I really like that says the path to salvation always passes through Gethsemane. You could say, like, the path to paradise always has to pass through hell, or you always have to go through hell before you get to the other side. And so I think when we center ourselves around Christ, around God, around religious things, it's going to help us have a better perspective, have more empathy, like my mom was saying. Because honestly, before the mission, I had a lot of bitterness, hatred, just a lot of bad feelings just because of everything that had happened, and I wasn't ready to let go, to forgive. But serving a mission and focusing on other people and focusing on my relationship with God really helped me see, especially my dad, in the way God sees him, and to see past through his weaknesses and his struggles, and to see, because my dad's amazing. He's a great person. He's motivated, he's passionate, and he's always taught us the right things. And, you know, I think after everything that happened, I kind of forgot all about that and focused everything on his mistakes, on his bad things. But realizing that if we focus on that, that's all that we're going to see. But if we focus on their good parts, on, you know, their strengths, then it's going to be a lot easier. Then it's going to be, we'll have the strength to be able to overcome it, because we'll see, okay, well, that's not really this person. They're just going through a bad part right now, or a bad spot in their life. And having that eternal perspective, which comes from setting ourselves on God, it really helps us be able to see that other person the way God sees them, and to be able to use that as like a power, as a rock, to be able to get us through the hard times, and to be able to keep going, to keep bettering ourselves, so that we can better our relationships with other people. Because we always have to focus on ourselves first, what we can do to better the situation and to better, you know, what's happening, or the relationships with other people.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I want to go back to one thing you said, when we focus on ourselves and making that, changing that relationship, it's the same when, you were saying you were focusing on all the bad things that dad was doing or what was happening. That's what you see. And to be clear, if something like that happens and you are focused on the bad things, it's okay, because often you do need to have that anger and that fire, because often anger is a sign that a boundary has been crossed, and clearly a boundary had been crossed there. And so there was anger there and there was fire, and there's no shame in that. There's nothing about that shouldn't be that way. Right. And I really want to reiterate that, because sometimes we think, the Christ-like thing to do is to just be nice. And we talk about Christ because I do believe in Christ and we have a belief, but to be clear, there was a time when I didn't, and I was really angry actually at God and Christ, but there was something inside of me that kept saying, it's okay. It's like, God can handle the anger, just so you know. If you're angry at God, he can handle it. Give it to him.
Exactly.
Give it to him. And, I like to bring in the spiritual aspect because it is a huge part of where my empowerment has come from. And I don't want to pigeonhole it into you have to believe in Jesus in order to be empowered. That's not what I'm saying. And my belief in Jesus has nothing to do with what you believe. If you believe in something else that's a higher power for you, or a different religion or a different higher power, it doesn't even have to be a being. It can just be the universe obviously is holding us in this rotation, in this space, in the seasons, and we are breathing the air. There is something higher than us that's at work here. And so I don't want to get too fixated on, you have to believe a certain thing, because you don't. But part of my empowerment was trusting that there was a higher power there that helped me. And one thing that really helped me do that was remembering a time when I really felt that support, because I did. I grew up in the religion that I'm in now, the member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But the way that I saw it and believed it as a child was different from the way that I saw it and believed it as an adolescent. And then it changed and shifted as I became an adult. And now I feel like it's just expanded. The more I have chosen to keep trusting in that higher power. Because after everything happened, and I also, it's hard to here's a list of what my life looked like. But with the timeline of how things went, some people think that shit hit the fan, obviously, when things were known online. But honestly, my dark night of the soul happened years before that. And that's when I really dove into what do I believe? What do I feel inside? And I kept leaning into that support that I felt when I was a kid and my mom passed away. Because I really felt like there was a higher power that kind of helped me through that. And maybe that's the faith of a child. But I do believe that when you have faith in something, when you believe in something, that energy expands. So it can go both ways. So if you believe in yourself, that is going to expand. If you believe in, what's something negative that would drag you down, that's going to expand. What you're focusing on is going to expand. So if you're focusing on, something that can help you and uplift you, as opposed to, my life sucks, I'm a victim, I'm never going to make it through this. And I'm not saying that if you're in that state that you're bad, because I've been there, but it's just disempowering. And what I'm interested in is what's going to help you feel empowered in your life. That was a tangent.
Mm-hmm. And real quick, I want to clarify as well that kind of I also am not what my mom was saying. I'm not saying you have to believe in what we believe. This is just what's helped me personally to be able to feel that. And also, forgiveness is a process. It's not going to be night and day. What I was talking about, that was years. All this happened when I was in middle school, and just now I'm almost turning 21. It's barely starting, I feel to see the fruits of all that. And I'm just now barely starting to see, all of that in a different perspective. And so it's a process, and it's not going to happen quickly. But if you keep at it, and if you really have the desire to try, then it's going to come eventually. But, healing takes time. Everything takes time, and it's all in a certain and perfect timing. And so, don't be hard on yourselves. We can't be hard on ourselves, because it takes a while. If you break down a bridge, if you break a wall, it takes a while to build it back up piece by piece. And so it's a process, but that's kind of what's helped me personally, is through Christ. And if maybe that can help you guys, that's why I talk about it. But you don't have to. There's other things, the universe and other higher powers, and but whatever you believe in it, and put your faith into it, and that will, like my mom said, expand and help you. But yeah.
Right. I think that's a lot of where the power is being willing to not know it all, and just trust that it's going to be okay. Because sometimes it doesn't feel okay. And I know some of you are experiencing life right now that just really sucks. And so what I would invite you to is to just find a way to be still with where you're at and connect to a higher power. Even if it's just hey, I don't know who's out there, but I want to start a conversation, and just start a conversation. It's that simple. And that was another direction. We can go in that direction. I have so many directions I want to go in with you.
You can take it whichever one.
I know. Let's just trust. Let's feel into it and trust which direction. Yeah. Because I know there's so many, we haven't really had a back and forth as much as we're just hey, we care about you guys, and here's this thing that we want to share. But I know there's a lot of people that want to know more about your mission. And first of all, I would like to hear as well, what inspired you? And I know we've talked about this belief in Christ and all, and how before, you were angry and you had these feelings. I want to know what inspired you to actually go on a mission, because I always, and I hope that I conveyed this to you as an adolescent, but I always wanted to make sure that you guys knew, you children, knew that I don't need you to go on a mission. I don't need you to believe what I believe. I don't need that at all to love you. And I think that it's kind of arrogant sometimes for parents to be well, I know what's best for you, because ultimately I've got a higher power. It might even be different than what you believe your higher power is, but you have it. And so you creating your world with your higher power is what I'm interested in. So I never wanted to push or force or, make our kids feel like they had to do something or believe something that I believed. So when you decided to go on a mission, I was actually oh, okay. I was a little bit surprised, honestly, because I remember that angry phase, and I understood it, and I got it. And most people are what? He was angry?
Yeah. I hit it pretty well, but I was. I never felt that pressure. Never really in my whole childhood or in life, which I thank you guys for, because I've definitely seen that in other families, and it doesn't end very well. Honestly, I was actually thinking about this the other day. Why did I decide to go on a mission? Because kind of when you're a missionary and you get to know other missionaries, that's kind of the first question when you get put maybe with someone new, a new companion, because you always are with a partner. You're always in 2x2, they say. So it's you always get with a new companion or a new missionary, and you always ask them, well, why did you decide to go on a mission? Why are you out here? And there's a lot of reasons why people go on missions. There's no bad, there's no good. At the end of the day, I believe that, the fact that you decided to serve says a lot in itself. For me personally, it was kind of because I remember you guys saying you don't have to go. And I was thinking, well, what else am I going to do with my life? And I remember at that time in my life, I was not happy with myself. I was not happy with who I was. Everything, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, I, did not like myself very much. And I saw that a lot of my friends at that time were deciding, to start preparing to go on a mission. And they were all asking me Gavin, when are you putting your papers in? because you have to fill out like paperwork and stuff to submit to like the offices, general offices, to be able to go on a mission. And so a lot of my friends would ask me that, and I'd be kind of like, oh yeah, I'll start them soon. But I wasn't really sure. And I don't know, I like before my mission, I was honestly not very good at like praying or reading scriptures or any of that. I just remember after kind of I received a special blessing from someone in our church, and in that blessing, he kind of described to me like some things that, you know, that like basically to me personally, it felt like God was calling me to go on a mission. And I remember hearing that and feeling that and reading the blessing and kind of like not really liking it and kind of like because I felt that it was right, but my heart was like yes, but my mind was like no.
Right.
You know, I'm sure you guys have had
been
that
there before.
You know, your heart wants something else, and you're like, no, I don't want that. And I was kind of going through that, but that feeling would not go away. It was just like, you need to go, you need to go. And I just felt it in my heart. There was my parents, like obviously they were influencing me, but it wasn't because of them. And it wasn't even because of my friends, even though they also influenced me a lot, because, you know, friends are important. I believe that you become most like your 5 closest friends. If you're hanging out with them all the time, you're bound to have similar behaviors, similar personalities, and do similar things. And luckily at this time I had very good friends that were all motivated, and they all decided they were going to go. So I think that had a little bit to do with it. But at the end of the day, I had to decide. And I just kept having this feeling in my heart, like, you need to go, you need to go. And, you know, I never, before my mission, I never like said a prayer to like ask God if that was the right thing. I kind of just trusted what I was feeling in my heart. It was like, okay, well, I'm going. And I remember I told my mom and dad, and they were excited. But yeah, I think I remember, Mom, you were a little like, oh, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, like, that's cool. You want to go? But like, I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, it is a big choice. And I definitely had a lot of moments leading up to leaving where I was very close to saying, no, I actually don't want to go. But I kind of like, I remember when I put my papers in, I kind of made that promise to myself, because, you know, this is another topic that we're not going to go very much into, but, you know, lots of missionaries, you know, come home early from their missions, and there's no shame. There's nothing wrong with that. God has a plan for everyone, and his timing is perfect, and everyone's plan is different. And that might not look the same as mine or as another person's. And so I don't want to put any shame or guilt into that. The fact that people go to serve a mission, to leave, is a big thing in itself. And it says a lot about their character and about who they are as a person, because a mission is a hard thing. It's not easy.
I mean, I didn't go, but just
but you know,
watching.
And I mean, you've experienced a lot of things that are hard, like a mission, so you understand. But and so I kind of made that promise with myself. I was like, okay, well, if I'm going, like, I'm gonna go. Like, I'm gonna go the full time. I'm gonna try to do it the best I can, because if not, then why am I going? And so I remember I kind of made that promise to myself in my heart, and then I went. And it was it's the most, up to right now, important, beautiful experience I've ever had in my life. I mean, not only did I grow like spiritually as a person, but I grew in the sense of, you know, getting to know another culture. I was in Mexico. I had to learn a different language, Spanish, which I didn't know anything before, and kind of different situations, like people, interactions, body language. It was all different. And I'm so grateful for that experience of being able to have that, to learn that. And not only, a mission is wonderful because you don't ever focus on yourself, or at least that's the goal, is to not focus on yourself, to, I was going to say in Spanish, but to focus on other people, which ultimately helps you, which is something that really kind of surprised me, I think. I remember I was talking to my mission president, kind of actually right before returning home, finishing my mission. And he was telling me, the more you focus on other people, on helping other people, on serving, God, the more your spirit, the more you personally are going to feel like full.
Right.
Because I feel like sometimes, I'm sure you've felt it before, but like sometimes we feel like we're missing something, or like obviously everything's going well. We're doing everything good. We're doing everything that, we should be doing. But we're still feeling like there's something missing, or we're not full. And I think realizing that serving other people and trying to focus on other people and not just myself was what filled that, was what really helps that. And that was really cool to be able to see that on a mission and to focus on others and helping others by giving them an option to, or a hope in this case of a higher power. There's a lot of people, I saw on my mission that didn't know which direction to take their lives, or they didn't know where they wanted to go. They didn't have goals, and they, didn't really believe in anything. And it was very cool to see, obviously there was a lot of people that didn't accept or that didn't want anything to do with us. But the people that did accept, I could see the change in their lives, the change in their hearts, the change in everything. And my mission was awesome. Made a lot of friends, a lot of different relationships have blossomed from that. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of missionary friends, a lot of people that I still talk to from Torreon. And yeah, it's great. Sometimes coming up on a month being home, it still feels very weird. And sometimes I forget that I was literally just there for 2 years speaking Spanish. But
was that a dream?
It literally felt like a dream. But yeah, it was very special.
So at your homecoming, when he came home and spoke in our church, everybody that comes home usually speaks about their experience. You said, this wasn't the best 2 years of my life, but the best years for my life. Do you explain what you mean by that?
I kind of, that phrase, I really like that phrase because I had that phrase kind of my whole mission. And a mission is, I've said it so many times, but it's not easy. And obviously they weren't the best 2 years because they were hard and, a lot of struggles, a lot of learning, a lot of growing. And obviously they were awesome years and I loved them, but there's more to life. That's kind of what we always talked about, mission president with missionaries, your mission is not your whole life. You have so much more to life. You have a family, kids or career, college, school, all of that. You have all of that in front of you. And, the mission, I believe, kind of what structures that, what shapes that, kind of sends you off. Before we go to the mission, we have a missionary training center called the MTC. And there they kind of prepare us for, depending on if you're going to a different country or learning a different language. For me, it was 6 weeks, 2 weeks online for Zoom, and then 4 weeks in person in Mexico City. They have a big training center.
And that's where you learn the language.
That's, the basics.
The basics.
They teach you the basics, then they throw you out there and you figure out the rest.
Yeah, because your first companion didn't speak any English, right? So you were learning Spanish for about 6 weeks.
Yep.
And then you were immersed.
And I love that guy. He tried his best. Sometimes he would type in Google Translate full paragraphs because he would speak to me in Spanish. I'd be like, huh? I don't know what you're saying, dude. I'm not there yet. I'd pick out words, but
I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. But anyways, the MTC is what trains us to go to the mission. And one thing I really like is I think the mission is our MTC, or it's what trains us for life. And
how so? What kind of ways?
In, you learn how to interact with people. You learn how to socialize. You learn how to be empathetic, how to see people through their eyes. Sorry, there's people painting in our house, so you could probably hear them talking.
Random voices from the abyss.
And you learn life skills. I don't know. Well, I learned Spanish.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big life skill, I would say.
I learned Spanish. I mean, I learned guitar in my mission.
He learned how to use a towel more than once.
I learned how to reuse a towel.
Because you would have to do your own laundry by hand.
Yep. I learned how to wash by hand. And I just learned like how to also diffuse situations, because there was a lot of times on my mission where it got very heated very quickly, and to kind of learn and adapt on how to diffuse a situation calmly and respectfully. I think that's another life skill that that now thinking it's not something I took for granted, but that's like something that I realized, there was a lot of fights that broke out and stuff, and you're just like, okay, let's relax. Just everything, it prepares you. It teaches you how to have a different perspective on things. I think personally it taught me how to be a better husband, a better father in the future, how to be more patient, because I was not very patient. I had a lot of anger before the mission, as my mom can attest to that. I'm sure you can.
Maybe just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit of hitting the little kids and stuff. But I think that just helps
teasing.
me. Lots of teasing. But I think all of that helped me prepare for what is to come. So that's why I like to say they weren't the best 2 years of my life. They're the best 2 years for my life. Because, 2 years in the grand scheme of things is a very small portion of our whole lives.
Right.
Sorry. And to kind of set that time aside to focus on other people, ultimately, which is focusing on yourself, becoming a better person, which sets you on a good course for the rest of your life, for the rest of, 60, 70, 80 years that you have left to live. And so. Yeah.
Okay. Couple things I want to dissect a little bit of what you said. So you just said like focusing on other people, which is ultimately like focusing on yourself, is what made life better. I get that question a lot because I'm constantly talking about self-love and focusing on yourself. And then people are like, well, aren't you being selfish if you focus on yourself? But I want to go into that a little bit more because I know for me, as I was, hi, hold on, we're just going to pause for a minute. Hold on, we're going to pause for a minute. We'll be back. Okay, we're back. Emmy actually came here for lunch and she didn't say anything until she was leaving. I should have made her come and show her face on camera.
She was making mac and cheese.
Yeah. So we said hi to Emmy and I did write down my notes so I didn't forget where we were, but we're actually going to reconvene this next week on our next episode. So we're going to continue the conversation. If you guys liked what you heard, please come back next week and we'll continue it on.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for watching Empowered Now. If anything you heard today resonated with you and you want more, please like and subscribe so that you won't miss an upload. You can also follow me on social media at Colette Kati. And if you're interested in working with me more closely through coaching or other opportunities, go to my website, ColetteKati.com. It is my hope that you will continue to come back and experience for yourself the benefits of choosing an empowered life. Your feedback and your experience are very important to me, so please take a moment to connect with me in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on today's episode, ideas for future topics, and ideas for guests that you would like to see. And as always, thanks for your time, support, and your courage to live empowered now.